One of the questions, Jen, in that news conference was about the strike on the girls' school that's next to a base in Iran, and it was a Tomahawk missile. The president saying Tomahawks are used by other countries, but an investigation is ongoing. What do we know about where that stands?
Well, that was a bit surprising to me because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict.
Trump's attempts to control the war narrative are failing, even on Fox News. The first instance came during a segment with Brett Barr and Fox's chief national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, who publicly pushed back against the Trump administration's version of events surrounding the conflict. The dispute centered around claims from the Trump administration about a missile strike that had killed more than 170 people, most of them children, in an elementary school in southern Iran, which prompted anger and, rightfully so, calls for an investigation in the United States. Trump has been giving contradicting answers about the incident over the past week. In early instances, he blamed Iran for the bombing, and more recently, he has claimed that, well, he doesn't quite know the details of the strike.
Yeah. Please, go ahead.
There's footage that shows an American missile strike and a Tomahawk missile likely destroyed that Iranian girls' school. So will the U.S. accept any responsibility?
Well, I haven't seen it. And I will say that the Tomahawk, which is one of the most powerful weapons around, is used by, is sold and used by other countries. You know that. And whether it's Iran, who also has some Tomahawks, I wish they had more. But whether it's Iran or somebody else, the fact that a Tomahawk is very generic. It's sold to other countries. But that's being investigated right now.
One of the questions, Jen, in that news conference was about the strike on the girls' school that's next to a base in Iran, and it was a Tomahawk missile. The president saying Tomahawks are used by other countries, but an investigation is ongoing. What do we know about where that stands?
Well, that was a bit surprising to me because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict. And then you also have the Japanese who are in a testing phase. So it seems highly unlikely that it would be anyone's Tomahawk other than a U.S. Tomahawk that hit that school. And I think the president knows that. He just knows that this is certainly a mistake, a big mistake, and it's being investigated, but he's trying to sort of muddy the waters by talking about the Tomahawks.
But Griffin pointed to satellite imagery and investigations suggesting that the strike likely involved a Tomahawk cruise missile, a weapon used by the United States, not Iran. And this raised serious questions about the administration's explanation for this disastrous incident. I mean, new reporting also adds another troubling layer to the story. According to an article from Politico on Pentagon deliberations, military leaders warned Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth not to dismantle offices designed to what? Limit civilian casualties during military operations. Those offices were created specifically to investigate and prevent harm to civilians in conflict zones. But officials say they were dramatically downsized as the Pentagon shifted toward a more aggressive warfighting posture. In fact, staffing tied to civilian protection efforts were reportedly reduced by roughly 90%, with the administration arguing that existing rules of engagement limited military lethality.
The argument is that a couple years ago, worked alongside my colleagues to pass into law something called the Civilian Protection Center. This is something that's at the Department of Defense, at the Pentagon, something that has personnel who are focused on this effort of ensuring protection of civilians, of reducing the risks that we see unfold here. The problem, though, is Secretary Hegseth decided to gut this office last year.
I mean, this raises fundamental questions, right, about how carefully this war is being conducted. And to have the pushback come from Fox News, that's quite startling also.
I look forward to the lighting them up tonight, but it's definitely not going to plan if Iran is now exporting more oil than they were before the war. after sending it over to China, which was supposed to be one of our targets here, that we would actually hurt the Chinese. They end up to be doing just fine from this. The way that the war is being discussed, I'm glad that you actually use that term, but listening to Trump say it's a little excursion, actually it's a war, and this turned out to be easier than we thought, feels very akin to that mission accomplished banner, which what you're saying, Jesse, is basically backing it up. There are massive military accomplishments, especially when it comes to downing the big Iranian vessels in particular. Some of those smaller boats are still giving us trouble. Cutting down on the number of missiles that they're firing, also incredibly important, but we haven't been able to stop their production and we haven't been able to stop the drones. So the Ukrainians are helping us do that, even though they came to us in August of last year. They had a PowerPoint presentation saying, we've got the right tech to sell you that'll actually help you if you get into a conflict like this. And we just said, no, moving on. We're not going to do anything with that. And now we need them, especially because the Russians are helping the Iranians, even though Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff, gave Putin a call and said, stop doing that. The goalposts have shifted further than a football field. Like Rubio started out, we're talking about ending nuclear programs. We don't talk about that anymore. We're talking about regime change. You call him Ayatollah Jr., that's fine. His legs, it sounds like it's bad, but he's also more of a hardliner than his father. His dad has been killed, his wife has been killed, his son has been killed, and his mother has been killed. He's mad. He's solidifying power, and if he does come out of there, then they're going to put someone else in. The Israelis are even saying we won't be able to go for regime change anymore. So now we're just talking about destroying the ability to launch the missiles. We have to destroy the missile factories. We haven't been able to do that, and destroy the Navy. That one looks like it's good. To the point about it's surgical, but never mind the 180 that died in the Iranian school, over 100 school children. And by the way, the preliminary inquiry report is out, and it does look like it was our missile and that we were going on bad intel. So they need to figure out how that happened. CBS is reporting that drone attack that killed 6 American soldiers in Kuwait, actually far more serious. There are 30 people right now in hospitals. They have brain trauma, burns, shrapnel in them. And we'll see again about the lighting it up tonight. But the cast of characters, when you listen to Steve Witkoff saying, I trust the Russians, he gave an interview yesterday on CNBC, and reporting around what was going on in these actual nuclear negotiations, where it indicates that Steve Witkoff didn't actually even know the terms well enough to understand what the Iranians were offering, does not give me a tremendous amount of confidence.
Fox News has often been the most sympathetic platform for Trump's political messaging, especially surrounding this recent war. But when the topic was also brought up on Fox News The 5, co-hosts were left stunned into silence when Liberal voice Jessica Tarlov pointed out the economic turmoil caused by this conflict and how the American people are feeling the pain at home.
Obvious, based upon what happened last night, and you even previewed on the show, you said the Strait of Hormuz is going to be lit up last night, and it was. And one of those tankers was based in New Jersey. And there are our Gulf allies, obviously, are screaming from the rooftops. We weren't prepared for this. We need more help. India is making their own deal with the Iranians to make sure that they can get their oil out. China continues to get what they need. And we're left thinking, how are we supposed to address this without putting boots on the ground? And from what I've read, all of these military analysts are saying that we're going to have to send people onto the coastline to be able to secure it. And that is the line in the sand for the American people. When you look at the polling, it has definitely shifted towards more support for the Iranian strikes. I mean, MAGA is sold. The days of there's friction over this, that's over. So now it's 85, 90% support. But when you ask Republicans even about putting American boots on the ground in the Middle East again, they're not for it. Democrats, obviously, even much less, and independents. And if that's where we're headed, that's a very dangerous place for us to be, not only from a national security reason, but also a morale and President Trump's administration's perspective.
And see, the lack of clarity on why the US escalated this conflict, when it will end, how it will end, and no, the president feeling it in his bones is not an adequate response. It's all indicative of an administration scrambling desperately to control the narrative. But that narrative only holds up if the facts support it. I mean, when reporters, even reporters on friendly networks like Fox, begin challenging those very facts, and when military officials warn that safeguards for civilians are being dismantled, the political dynamic and the ramifications can be huge. I mean, Trump may be out here boasting on Truth Social about winning this war and killing people with ease. But at home, the American people feel left in the dark and they're not willing to swallow the snake oil that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are trying to feed everyone.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.